one of the top stories that we have talked about the most. In fact, I was actually just sharing with you some of the latest about the laptop situation, Igor Dashchenko, all of this. It's not even just so much about Hunter Biden. It's really the implication for the entire Biden family. And I think in many ways, the Democrat Party at large for turning their eyes away from this and the compromise of national security. There are a million issues wrapped up in the story around Hunter Biden. And it's a great movie. And we talked about this before. Robert Davi came out with My Son Hunter, which he directed. And you guys know Robert Davi. I mean, he also sings Sinatra, by the way. And we were going back and forth. Do we want to introduce him with himself? How are we going to do this? Like, what's the best way to do it? I mean, we're not, we know radio, we know politics, but we don't know, what he knows. He joins us now via Skype. He directed My Son Hunter, and you've seen him on the silver screen. You've seen him everywhere. My friend, it's so good to see you as always.
It's great to see you as always.
And congratulations on this film. This is a very unique telling of this story. And I think that I have to give you a lot of credit because you really wanted to tell the story. This wasn't just a political exercise for you. You really wanted to tell the story of what was going on. And you did so, which interestingly enough, through this activist perspective. And you had a lot of source material to work from, and you had a great cast. I thought it was interesting. He's Lawrence Fox, British actor, who played Hunter Biden. He did a really good job. And because I was familiar with Lawrence Fox and his work, and I thought, how is this going to work out? Talk to me a little bit about, because you did have a lot of source material, and you also have only so many minutes really to tell this story because, of what's acceptable to audiences. How do you figure out this is a monumental undertaking.
Yeah. Well, first off, the Unreported Story Society, Philip McAleer and Ann McAnally, they developed the project with Brian Godowa as a writer, as a screenwriter. And then when I got aboard, of course, the source material of Miranda Devine, the New York Post stories, Peter Schweitzer, there was so much material being given, and even Rudy Giuliani. There's so much material on that had been ignored by the mainstream media and the Democratic Party. And then Hunter's own autobiography, Beautiful Things, which I went to and extracted things from that. And the idea of telling the story through this 25-year-old left-wing activist who's an exotic dancer to pay for her college education, who Hunter meets up with, who is someone that is absolutely, the opposite of any conservative and doesn't want to see anything bad about Hunter Biden. Now her eyes are opened up through this character that Franklin Adewale plays, who's a Nigerian super soccer star and had never acted before, but he had a great face. And he then navigates her through when she finds out that Hunter is Hunter Biden, because it's the evening takes place the night that the laptop is discovered. And Joe Biden with the Secret Service come to track Hunter down. And they get him out of a strip joint, and then he moves off to the Chateau Marmont, and then anyway, it unfolds. And he navigates her where to get the material, because she says it's not on any of the mainstream media. He goes, no, kitty, you got to go through the back channel. And she says, what are you, a white supremacist? He goes, yeah, the black face of white supremacy.
Wow.
And he then helps and then we unfold the corruption with the Ukrainian, with Burisma, with Devin Archer, with even John Kerry's son, who dropped out of the business. It's so interconnected. And then also with the Chinese spy thief. So you want to be able to, and then the indictment, which is really a big story on the mainstream media and social media, which buried the story. And as we're finding out now that finally the New York Times says it exists, you've got Zuckerberg coming on Joe Rogan telling that the FBI told him to squelch the story. It's quite, and you said I wanted to tell the story, and I did because watching, Dana, as we all did, the Russian collusion and the Steele dossier and everything that the left was doing in terms of their attack, and they continue to do on Trump to bring down, they say, well, January 6th, and I don't agree with an insurrection. Of course not. None of us do. But when you have the American populace watching an insurrection going on in their own country and understanding that, how do you then rectify that? How do you then rectify 2 years of cities burning, looting, the Steele dossier, the attack on that administration? How do you rectify that to the American people? How do you heal that?
That's a great point.
By calling us, the MAGA people, fascist, which the left is doing. And I mean, it just is. So I wanted to tell this story.
Yeah. We're talking with our friend Robert Davi, director of My Son Hunter. You bring up a really good point, because you had the riot on January 6th, which I thought was what we were on air when all of this happened live. And Trump was still speaking when people were already entering the Capitol, which kind of put a wrinkle in the timeline and accusations of people who were saying that he directed it. But what's more, the insurrection, one of the most underappreciated things about all of this is what happened with that FISA court and what happened with reporters being fed discredited information. They would run it as stories, and it was very cyclical. It was turned around and used as probable cause to go and spy on private citizens who were just working. They were doing what they do as Americans, and they were working on behalf of a campaign. This is so incredibly troubling. And, I was talking with J.D. Vance a little earlier. He's running for Senate in Ohio.
Yes.
In the past 8 years, it just seems it's now been sped up to just this hyper speed. So many things have happened in the past 8 years with not just with this, the lockdown and everything else. And what I think that you do with My Son Hunter, and I really appreciated your approach to it, because you really gave yourself, the best way to put it, you really approach this from the point of a leftist. So people can't say that this is a conservative who's making a film, and they're just you actually did everything, all your due diligence, to present it as faithfully and as credibly as you could. And here you have this party, which you have had Barack Obama and Joe Biden for the past 8 years, the Biden family, national security with China and the business associations, national security with Burisma and Ukraine. All of these things have happened, and all of this. And this individual who seemingly is completely untouchable, unaccountable, this family is unaccountable, while people have lost their jobs for not getting the vaccine. People have been arrested if they're pro-life protesters. I mean, there's so much. I just feel like this is kind of a very iconic film for this time.
Yes. And again, I didn't want to demonize the drug addict, because families, I've had family members, an ex and kid that had an issue, and it's a disease of addiction, and it's terrible. It tears you apart watching someone.
Right, but you did show that, because not every family wants to enable or make easy someone in their addiction, which there's a very sharp difference between kind of how the Bidens handle this and then what
Well, you're thinking this is the president and the vice president. The power of this man after 45 years, he could do something more to help his son than the normal person that's struggling out there.
Right.
That can't absolutely get control of what might be happening. So, and then I posed the question at the end of the film through this girl, the Grace Anderson character, when she confronts Hunter finally, after seeing what was going on with China and him making the deals with the Chinese when they're spying on their people, when they're re-educating their people to leave their families and believe in the government and believe in much like what's happening in our nation today, what they're doing with the woke society, trying to create a familyless society. And, and so she realizes this and she says, how could you do this? And she comes on the realization, you want this to be found. There was a part of Hunter, perhaps, that wanted the laptops to be found, to bring down, because why does someone, I had to ask the question, go to that lengths for drug addiction? He was hitting the pipe every 15 minutes, meeting with the communist spy chief or meeting with heads of different big energy companies and nuclear companies. Why would somebody be so careless? It had to be something that maybe there was something deeply psychological, which was a cry for help in some way, or want to bring down this thing that he couldn't live with. Perhaps there's something in that, So I at least pose that question, and the audience can come to their own decision on that. But it's quite indicting.
And I'm glad you did bring up that question, because Kane and I have talked so often. How does someone, record themselves this much? how does someone just leave? You know what you have, you know what information you have on your laptop. How do you just leave this behind in someone else's hands long after it's been fixed and you just don't come and claim it? And there's, 1 and 2 laptops now. It seemed careless, and trying to figure out if the carelessness was fueled by, as you were saying, there's like this deep psychological cry for help, or he just thought he was untouchable and never,
Well, I think
ever.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of both, but the deep-seated, don't forget he lost his mother when he was young. There's a problem, okay?
Yeah, serious. Yeah, very much so.
There must be resentments of things. And, but it's, the father says, you're the smartest man I know. He says to his son, and this is a boy that I just want to make him proud. There's a moment, I just want to make him proud. So how does he make him proud? Well, and Jill Biden is a psychologist, is she not? Is she not someone equipped with an ability to be a psychologist? Now, she's not the mother, the birth mother. He says, as he says, it's mommy and mom. You know what I mean? He changes the. But there was another laptop when I was casting for the girl. Someone in Los Angeles, an actress, said, "Oh, you know what? My friend had an Airbnb, and he found another laptop inside a backpack with drugs that Hunter left. Besides the ones we know, there was another laptop. So it just is. What else? And how compromised could he be?
Right.
With other foreign countries.
That's the big scary thing. How compromised is he? Talking with our friend Robert Davi. I wanted to ask you this because you were talking about the Trumps earlier. Their kids, and I've known Trump for 10 years, and I know Eric, and I know Don Jr. They've have they're successful in business. They have their families. You've never seen them in any kind of compromising positions. You have, unfortunately, not just Hunter, but also Ashley Biden there's a lot of headlines and controversy and all that surrounds them. But the way that the press and really Hollywood and Democrats have attacked Trump and his family and his kids, there's clearly a difference here that apparently, we're all picking up on it. It looks like there was some parenting done right and parenting done wrong. I kind of wanted to get your take on that.
The most egregious aspect, and I say this in the film, and we show this in the film, is what the media has done. And I'll give you an example, not in the film, but it's in history. When Leslie Stahl had an interview with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump brings up the Hunter Biden laptop.
Yeah.
Leslie Stahl is like a mother defending a child. No. And he's telling her, well, yes, we have the evidence. No, that's not, please don't go there. It's not that. And they switch. They shut it down. Then you have the people talking about today. How absurd is this, Dana? You've got the FBI going, we got a case on tax and we got a case on a gun permit. This is like having a $1 billion bank robber, and they're going away in the Brinks truck, and they're stopped by the authorities, and they say, your taillight is busted. Here's a ticket for the busted taillight. Meanwhile, there's money being, siphoned and what other corruption was around. It is an indictment on today's media. We are in a frightened time.
Yeah.
And they even, Joe Biden was on 60 Minutes last week, and they brought up, and I think they brought it up because I talk about how I don't demonize the drug addiction because families, so they said, that's what we can go on. Let's bring up the drug addiction, and Joe could be sensitive about it. And he goes, yes, he's a boy, he's a good boy, and he struggled with his addiction, and he's beyond it now. And they do that, and then they stop the interview goes to somewhere else.
Yeah.
They go,
that was enough for them.
What about the alleged corruption? What's happening there? How insane.
Yeah. They just moved to something else. This is why I'm so glad that you did this film, and we'd love to have you back and talk to you more. This is when radio, because we have a little bit left in radio, and then they're going to kick us off the air. But our friend Robert Davi, you need to go to mysonhunter.com.
And the
because
DVD is out now. You can get
yes,
the DVD as
you
well.
can get that. You can also it shows you how to buy it, shows you how to watch it. You can go there. Everything that you would need to know, go through mysonhunter.com. Congratulations on this, and a great cast as well. I know my friend Gina Carano is in this too.
Yes.
You did a very good job, and
Yeah,
congratulations. Are you going to do another one? Real fast, quick question. Are you going to direct more? Going to do another film?
Yeah. I have another idea. We'll see if how far we can develop that. But I think it's a very timely, indicting idea.
We're going to talk about that. I'll get it out of you one way or the other. We'll talk about it. Robert Davi, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. Good to talk with you.